Gisukwithnam, Okaklek Gnuhusak Balki, Okaklek Gwen Phillips, Huninik Ktunaxa, Usukul Kukni now San Miyetki. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gwen Phillips from the Ktunaxa Nation, and I feel really good to be with you today. I can't be there in person. I guess none of us can, but we're still getting our work done, and maybe a little bit more work when we don't have to travel from place to place quite so often. So thank you, everyone. Thank the Creator for bringing us together, and thank you to all the host nations who will be joining us through this event or who have joined us. So I was asked to speak a little bit about the relationship of community planning to nation rebuilding, and also about some of the things that I've witnessed in the past 34 years of my own work in doing community planning, nation rebuilding, and really focusing in on community development. And I put just a few slides together so you don't have to look at me the whole time, and so that there'll be a bit of a legacy beyond my face for you to look back on and reflect what I've spoken to. So when I saw the title of this event, Resilient and Rising, I smiled and I got a tickle inside and a really warm feeling because absolutely that's what the focus is now. We've got young people who are so hungry for knowledge of who they are, and they're ready to start the rebuilding. And we've been resilient, absolutely. And it's our stories, our teachings, our values. It's all of those things that make us who we are that have provided that resilience. And so as we go forward in rising, we have to remember who we are, who we were, and who we want to be again. And so the visions we create for ourselves as communities are so important. And not just as a community, because we were never independent as communities. We had our neighbors, we had our families, we had the tribes and the nations with whom we associate, that we belong to. Indigenous people, First Nations people, we belong to nations, but we live in communities, towns, rural, remote regions all across Canada and across the world. So when we think about our community planning, it's not just for the places and the spaces. It's also for the nation rebuilding, the remembering and the rebuilding. Indigenous Community Development National Strategy is something that's rolling out right now. It's something that is taking place at a national level, but the implementation is going to be at the regional level, coordinated through the regions. And really where the rubber hits the road, as we all know, is through community-driven and nation-based processes. So there's never been a time like this that I can remember in my tenure working with my own nation, where we've had the willingness of a federal and provincial government, and when the world has actually recognized that we do have rights. So now those rights have to be transferred to responsibilities, and we've got to assume those responsibilities. And those responsibilities relate to taking up the charge again, remembering who we are, and aligning these national strategies that the federal government is putting out there, taking hold of them ourselves as nations of people again, and making them meaningful. So they slice us and dice us and pull us apart, and then our job, of course, through community planning, is to pull that back together again. And so we think about things like the Language Act, the Child and Youth Services Act, Murdered Missing Indigenous Women, all of the articles of the UN DRIP legislation, etc. It really boils down to comprehensive community planning to address all of those issues. We require the funding, and it's got to be recognized that planning is actually a function of governance. And when we do our planning, let's remember who we are so that we can rebuild those networks, those social support networks, take care of those environments, the social and physical environments. We can have the processes and the relationships that we need to move forward in a good way. And that starts inside. The reconciliation inside our own communities, the healing that is necessary can be facilitated through community development. So as we go forward and we have conversations about what we need to plan for, we want to plan for what we want, not for what we've got. And so focusing in on the 12 determinants of health and using those as a way to focus in on what we need in our communities, but remembering what they mean from the perspective of your culture, of your language and your stewardship. Because planning and risk management is not a new thing to us. The Ktunaxa were buffalo hunters. We had a lot of planning involved in that. And there was risk management as well. Some of us were whale harvesters. Others had grease trail relationships. We harvested grease one place, and we actually had a trade relationship going all across British Columbia to facilitate bringing that resource to other nations and tribes. So we had governance, we had planning, we had risk management, we performed all of those. So again, when we think about our planning work in community, planning and risk management is a function of governance. It's not a program or a project. So we need to stabilize that function. And all of the other functions of governance are depending on planning, and planning being done again from your perspective as a distinct society of people. So that's the slides I have to share with you. I hope you've taken something away. I hope to see you all again in person sometime. And I hope to see some examples, more examples. I've seen a lot of examples, but I hope to see examples of planning from every culture in British Columbia, as we remember how we used to do it, why we used to do it that way, remembering our values, rebuilding our culture, because culture evolves, it doesn't stay static. The things that are important are the things of value that we carry with us through time, remembering what they are, anchoring them in our vision for the future. Hunit qawhall iknatlani, qapsins hutsqall uphaltit natlani. Hunit qawhall iknatlani, qapsins hutsqall uphaltit natlani. When we all work together, lots will come to us. Hey. Much love. Anwanikit.